Welcome, everybody, to The Hole in the World, an actual play of the Invisible Sun RPG by Monty Cook Games. I, as always, your GM, Great Zamino, otherwise known as Zach, here in Shadow. And I am once again joined by my four lovely cast members. They're all in their proper alignment in the overlay this time, so I'm exceptionally proud of myself. Starting as we always do on the left hand side on the screen, playing Everett. Marcy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and your character?
Hey y'all, it's me, Marcy, aka Experimental Madness, and you can find me most places around the internet under that name, except for Twitter, where I am the resident cryptid under the username Marciful. Sometimes I'll say hi. Who knows when that happens? I like to keep it mysterious. And for our interlude, I am back playing the irreverent Mott, otherwise known as Everett, otherwise known as Mott, depending on how you're feeling that day. And he is a connected, empathic apostate who fuses nightmares to fists.
Awesome. Underneath her on the overlay, playing Kieran. Bill, why don't you give us your introduction?
Hey everybody, I'm Bill. You can find me on Discord. I am at Ghostbike. And today I'm going to be playing Kieran von Milas, the Eremitic Stoic of the Order of Makers who warps time and space.
Excellent. Can't wait. Playing the role of Okris this week on the right-hand side. Hopper, why don't you give us your intro?
Yeah, that's me, Hopper. I am Hopper, as you may have guessed. I use they, them pronouns, and I can be found in, on, and around the interwebs at Fail Deadly. That's with a 3 instead of an E because I'm a bad person. And if you're in the Twitch chat, then I'm also in there today as not that because I don't know how technology works. You can find me at the Legend Tree, where you can also find other bullshit I do. And tonight I will be playing Okris, the iconoclastic apostate who heralds endings. I got there, everybody. We're good.
Love it. And finally, playing Allegra. Marissa, why don't you give us your intro?
Hello, everyone. My name is Marissa, also known as Critical Kitten, with a variety of punctuation here and there on the internet. And today I am playing Magister Allegra von Hollingsworth, call sign the Rook, who is an Eremitic Stoic of the Order of the Vance who claims dominion over ideas.
Excellent. I love all of our super long intros, but even more, I'm going to love telling you guys exactly where we've been this past episode. So I am going to go ahead and get us with a little bit of mood music. So a lot has happened in the first 2 episodes of the War Report, entitled Operation Unguis. We were introduced to the members of the Caderak, a super secret Black Ops team of Vizsla that have been recruited by the Saturnine army to undertake very difficult and dangerous missions. The 4 player characters being those operatives in this situation. Their first operation, Operation Unguis, involved the acquisition of an asset from a battlefield, a new weapon that had been deployed by the enemy that was part of the invasionary force attacking Saturnine. They find themselves in the theater of the Upper Taverswood battlefield, which, as our normal PCs understand, is a district that no longer exists within the realm of Saturnine. Throughout this battle, you guys encountered a number of enemy insect-like, but also bird-like creatures that seem to be traveling through open apertures in reality, invading through these apertures to come to bear against the forces of the Saturnine army. You guys traveled through a trench with the help of Jaren, Corporal Jaren of within the war as you know him, who assisted you in finding your way to the LZ, and then from there acquiring the asset and then making your way towards extraction, which in this case is the bar Zeros. Over the course of the battle, not only did you lay waste to a great large part of the squad that was assembled to protect this asset, you also managed to down a cyst spawn creature, which you realized is a product of the asset or the munition that you have managed to cut a very large sample off of, which has been stowed into a extra dimensional bag in Kieran's possession. So at the tail end, it seemed like more and more squads would converge upon your position. However, each of you, being either the mentee or the subordinate of a powerful Vizsla general from the Saturnine army, were assisted by General Zaleska, pardon me, the Vancian general of the Saturnine army, of a great deal of notoriety. Essentially, looking through Allegra's perspective, she was able to block an attack and thus allow herself to teleport in to lay waste to the enemy and buy you some time. As you were making your way towards Zeros, several of you noticed a member of the enemy that seemed to secret itself down an alley, but when you looked, that enemy had disappeared. The only thing being different from the other enemies that you had encountered, that this one was not wearing a helmet. Other than that, you guys find yourself in Zeros, in this very nicely appointed bar. Who stands behind the counter but a very distinguished looking bartender, Roz, one of which, two of you may actually be very familiar with Roz. Roz themselves is basically someone with about a shoulder length Vanta black hair, but their mode of dress changes each time you have visited Zeros, for those of you who are veterans. And it's from this point that we're going to pick back up. Now, because it's been some time since you guys have joined us in the actuality here, I would like each of you to briefly describe your characters, their physicality, what's going through their head as they find themselves in this extraction point, surrounded by several patrons looking into the face of Roz, and also bearing the weight of the asset that you have procured for the Saturnine army. And we'll go ahead and start as we started with our introductions. Everett, why don't you tell us what Everett looks like and what's going on through his head?
Yeah, I think as Everett steps in through the doors of Zeros, you can't really see what his emotions are. In this case scenario, I think it would be more apropos to ask how other people might be feeling, because that will be displayed on his face. For the Reverend Mott has for a head one of those old classic drama tragedy masks, purely porcelain. The lips don't move, there are no eyes in its sockets, and it just seems to take on the blank emotional state of whoever they seem to be staring at, rather than whatever Mott himself would be feeling. While that mask is floating in this little black void that seems to comprise the rest of what would be a head and a neck. He's wearing sort of a leather jacket, sort of a cobbled together uniform. No real weapons as far as you can see. There's a ring on his hand that he's fiddling with. There's a couple of like necklaces and charms, some sturdy boots and trousers. Funny enough, there's no guns. There's no real knives. Right now, his hands, in addition to like fiddling with the ring, seem to be moving from that to putting them in his pockets as he steps inside. In his body language, he looks like he's just had a weight removed from him. Like he is just so relaxed now from all of the adrenaline of what they had done in order to get the asset. And he sort of like lifts like his chin up and gesture, like gives like those like one little like nod over at Roz, like, sup.
Yeah, and Roz, you see there is a swirl of glasses and what appear to be fine liqueurs, and sliding down the bar towards you, which you are quick enough to grasp in one hand, is a thin flute of your favorite beverage, if you would like to go ahead and describe that.
Yeah, this is what, so there was just one day when Roz was just needing somebody to experiment with new drinks. So we've got a bit of gin, we've got a bit of vermouth, we've got a little drop of angelic tears and some sort of ichor. We're not sure what it is. But he was assured that it would taste really good, and the colors sort of swirl within the glass, blue and green, a little drop of red there, like sort of shifting on the bottom, sort of giving a little like illusion of like little tiny lava lamp bubbles as and he drinks it, but the mouth doesn't move from whatever position the emotions were, and yet the drink goes down.
Would you do me a favor, actually?
Yeah.
Could you please make a resistance roll for me?
Oh dear God, so soon.
The challenge is going to be 7. And
how fast does Mott want to get drunk?
I mean, honestly, is there anything that you can drink at zeros that doesn't cause you to have to roll resistance?
That's an 8.
Awesome.
I can hold my liquor.
Cool. Yeah. So, excellent. So you find yourself in possession of this fine beverage. Kieran, tell us what you look like and what is going through your mind as you survey this bar.
Everyone in Zero sees a tall, thin man in what appears to be cat burglar attire, with black boots and tight black clothing and a leather jacket above all that. He's carrying at his side what appears to be a large, old-timey doctor's bag, almost 4 feet long and 2 feet wide, very cumbersome. His face is wrapped in like a mummy in all black, and goggles over his eyes that are rimed with ice, and he quickly takes those off to reveal his eyes, and while holding his bag, digs in for a leather glasses case, undoes it with his mouth, and puts his glasses in and drops it in the doctor's bag, and the ice that and the coldness that surrounded him has disappeared. And he looks around at the bar. He looks at Roz. What does he see?
So, as you look at Roz, I know that you have a certain ability. Would you describe that secret or ability for me?
Absolutely. Kieran has the secret of View Demon symbol, and I can see the red demon's invisible symbols that indicate their precise position in the demon hierarchy.
As you look at Roz, there is something... As you look at Roz, there isn't really a symbol attached to them. Normally, what does it look like typically when you see a symbol of the hierarchy? Is it like attached to the forehead? Where is it you typically look?
The lower ranks have their insignias more conspicuously, but the higher ranks may hide them. So very often it is on the neck or the wrist, but no matter where they are with this secret, I can see them glowing underneath any clothing or hidden obfuscation.
So when you look at Roz, you don't see a symbol. But when you see the mantle above Roz, and on every wall of Zeros, you see a very large, ostentatious, what would normally look like probably be the beginnings of a symbol, you just see it scratched out on every wall meticulously. Imagine it as though the serial numbers were filed off everywhere you looked. And it's on every wall in very prominent places. what appears to be underneath the facade of the wall itself. You have never seen anything like that.
Would it be unreasonable for Kieran to assume that these are demons who have gone AWOL?
You can assume what you like.
Kieran continues to scan the premises.
As you scan the premises, there are several people throughout that you very kind of plaintively make out as coming from all walks of reality. There are angels, there are devils, there are other Vizsla, there are some people that seem to be celebrating in uniform, having accomplished their mission. There is a notably loud contingent of Vances down the bar who seem on the youngish side. And then there are your compatriots. That said, every time someone enters Zeros, the bar appears different. So I'm going to actually say for our next person on the overlay, Okris, give us your description, give us what you're thinking, but also tell us what the Zeros look like right now.
Ooh. So Okris is about 5'8", and wearing, I think the first thing that strikes a person kind of looking at them is a shock of very fiery red hair, as this kind of reddish brown hood has been thrown back, and there's this almost not feathery, but almost like it looks like it might fall apart at any moment. There's a field jacket, like a olivey gray field jacket that's been patched and sewn and repaired so many times that it looks like a good stiff breeze could make it fall apart at all of the seams. And I think once they're about 5'8", just very, and they walk with a sense of determination that kind of belies they're not very big. They're pretty lithe. And when you finally get a look at their face, it's a little bit of a shit show. They, until recently, they were wearing a mask that was covering the majority of their lower face up to their eyes. And that got melted off their face. And underneath there was more damage that was kind of protecting. There's on the left side of their face, kind of basically running from their left ear all the way to about the far corner of their mouth. There's a pretty nasty burn scar. And there's a ragged kind of healed but whole exposing their teeth on the left side of their face. Does not look great. And what Okris sees when they walk into the bar is it's a little bit, it's almost like somebody tried to do postmodern but didn't have the material to really pull it off. Everything looks a little bit off. Everything is just, it's trying to go for chic, but the material is wrong. It's coarse wood, and it's trying to do, it's like the lines are all busted. The wood is warped, the concrete, there's concrete on the floor, which should look, I don't know, that weird fucking mid-90s, like classy, you know what I'm talking about, where they're trying to be classy by doing all the way too much concrete, like, and they were like going for austere, and they just ended up looking like I don't know, a Soviet fucking block building. It's like that. It's off.
It's almost brutalesque, you know, like
brutalesque.
Yeah. So as you kind of, I will say this, all of you see a in one corner within the bar is one thing that both Everett and Allegra, you realize, has never changed the entire time. Every time you've visited, there is a antiquated, made of what appears to be wood, brass, and Edison style light bulbs with very elaborate typography and hand lettering is a love tester machine. Other than that, however, Allegra, your eyes have fallen on this machine, and you are beginning to remember very fuzzily the last time you visited Zero's, and at which point Roz kind of nods in your direction. Allegra, why don't you tell us, what you look like, what's going through your head right now, having returned?
Sure. So Allegra is a young Vancian scientist turned battle strategist in the war, with a privileged station relative to her age and experience, which is minimal at this point in her timeline. And she appears to the casual observer to be somewhat of a willowy aristocrat, not strictly speaking suited for any sort of war. You see a tall, slim figure with long, dark black curls that are twisted into an intricate updo. She's wearing what can only be described as a battle dress, so her dark black dress robe with a high Victorian collar, and then right at the throat, at the closure of the throat, is the signet of the Vance, indicating that this is a Vancian battle casting uniform. And around her neck, you also notice that she's wearing a pendant of some kind. It's a shard of what looks to be midnight blue broken glass, reminiscent somehow of the night sky. Allegra has a very prim and dismissive disposition, and she has a raven as well named Sophinox, who roosts in her very intricate hairdo. Allegra, as she walks into Zero's, sees the bar basically as the dark academia aesthetic come to life, with like a hint of the Gothic. So very dark drapes, candelabras, polished hardwood floors, and lots of grandfather clocks for some reason, I think. Very Quoth the Raven. And I think that makes this machine like stand out all the more to her, because it just completely disrupts this like very luxurious looking, librarian study, from the 1800s kind of vibe that otherwise Zero's gives off to her.
Yeah, and you do see a number of Vances, like some of them, you take a look down the bar and all of them, like one of them kind of recognizes that you are a magister, most of them postulants or controls. And all of them kind of like, a couple of them kind of like pay a modicum of respect. All of them are kind of still unwinding. There's several of them have their back to you, but you still kind of do get afforded that little bit of institutional respect there.
Can I tell if it's genuine? Are they casting that admiration spell?
I think they're a little bit of 2-3 sheets to the wind for that right now. I think if you probably, kind of about face them, they might have that reply, but you don't know for sure yet. And at this note, at this moment, I think that all of your attention is kind of taking in your surroundings, taking in kind of like the potentials for threats, all of the exits, kind of what you as operatives naturally do, at which point you just hear Roz speak very affirmatively to all of you. So your friends are having a little bit of a situation. A prior meeting, that space is rented out for slightly a bit longer. We're quickly moving things along. It shouldn't be too much longer now. I hope that all of you make fine use of beverages. Everything is on the house for you. And they wink at you very surreptitiously, and you see a fine menu to one side. What do all of you do?
So they're here, like in the back.
It's a little bit more complicated than that. They'll be opening the door to Zero's at any point for your reunion, as it were. And Everett,
and my relax even further.
Yeah, Everett, you realize that Roz is trying to be clandestine or trying to kind of put up a front. But I think just being in this place, you haven't really necessarily always associated it with that. And so you kind of quickly get that impression.
Yeah.
Kieran looks to Mott, and I think the mask on Mott's face is kind of like the one eyebrow arched.
Yeah.
Would someone mind telling me what the fuck is going on?
You never been to Zero's, mate.
No.
You're in for a hell of a time.
We have
This
a
is
first
not-
timer.
Our exfiltration spot, or did I sleep through the briefing?
I believe that this might be given what Roz just notified us of. And you, Mott, like, gestures with his glass over, like, I would have seen you before if you'd been here.
I imagine so.
Well, anyway, it's a bot. Well, that's the
And
that's
I
the short
have
example.
an asset burning a hole in my bag, as it were.
Well, then I say that we pull up a couple of chairs and get you a drink to relax until we get reunited.
Kieran does his best to look even more uptight.
Are you just fucking with
That-
Mott's mask?
Yeah, the mask is absolutely scowling.
Yeah,
That-
amazing.
I don't. If we're all in the same place, theoretically, that is interrupted by the really awful screeching of a stool being pulled across a floor. That just kind of you know, that really that shitty metal stool across a concrete floor sound, and Okris is gonna just sit down at the bar and just kind of at Roz.
And Roz,
Ignoring all of this shit.
and Roz looks to you and says, yes, what'll it be? And you do know, if you haven't got anything handy, I do have a menu for you.
Oh, no. Red.
Red wine? Okay. So, very daintily poured into this glass, a bottle of this red viscous liquid flows into a large wine glass, and the liquid seems to seethe and boil as it pours into the glass and then kind of levels out. And they push the drink to you and say, enjoy.
Okris shoots it.
Yeah. So you have
That's the same drink that Gav tried to shoot.
Yeah,
way
exactly.
back in the day.
Oh yeah.
You drink a glass of wine that is red wine, that is wine from the red, the home of many demons and devils and all manner of destructive beings and creatures. And the immediate effect of drinking this is you get an endorphin rush that really quickly just kind of slams the front of your cortex with a bit of hype and energy. But as you do, as it slides down your esophagus, you feel kind of this caustic seething, which I imagine that you are no stranger to. And it's basically, if it were to do any damage, it would really just be regressing to the mean, wouldn't it?
So Okris kind of wipes some of it that's dribbled out the side of their face, and I think doesn't. Do I have to roll anything, Zach?
I will say no. I think that it's only if you have a second drink.
Oh, have you met me? Well, hello. Yeah. So I think you you probably see the there's this kind of interrupts that whole scene, as well as Mott's mask flashes to a kind of a not quite self-satisfied smirk, but a kind of a grin of pleasure as Okris just kind of leans back and just raises their hand again. And I think the camera would probably catch that their eyes, which are normally pretty clear, kind of pinkish red, are now a little bit more red than they were before.
Love it. Yeah, and Roz obliges you and begins pouring a second glass of red wine. Allegra, what are you having?
Well, I think first Allegra shoots you a look, Okris, and just kind of, I think Mott's mask at this point just like has a little bit of a disproving look on its face, and she says, "I have it on quite good authority that you are supposed to sip and savor red wine. You are not supposed to chug it."
Is that other glass poured?
Yeah, it is.
So Okris just kind of turns and looks at you, and then pulls a bit of this melted mask out of their face, and like throws it onto the bar with like a little ting-ling, and shoots the next one.
Yeah, and you would think that the piece of the mask would make a noise, but Roz almost imperceptibly catches it before it falls on the bar. I will say, as you shoot it, however, how many wounds have you taken?
Some. Actually, I think I might be good.
Okay.
Zero amount.
I've got one. Forgot about that for a
No,
second.
you were cranking up the wounds. I just don't know how many you resisted.
Yeah. I because I used my I took several wounds, but I used a forte ability to heal myself by wrecking a whole bunch of shit around me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it turns out that each as you kind of drink the wine glass deliberately, as if to prove a point, you do take 1 damage, and I think you perceptibly hear as it begins melting a little bit of Okris's esophagus. So that being said, it's only 1 point of damage. I know that, Marcy, you're a little bit chagrined there, but there might have been a reason you took more damage for a demon brewed wine or beverage of some
No,
sort.
I had the wound from. Oh, you're talking about when Gav did it. Well,
Yeah.
yes, that one I think we all are aware of.
Cool.
And
I play no favorites.
And Okris's eyes, like kind of as they deadeye Allegra while this is going on, are again even a little bit redder than they were before.
Yeah.
Allegra looks supremely affronted. Like this is just the highest sort of like dishonor to high society.
You will make my face hit. We will just get a drink and calm down.
And as you say this, Everett, there is a very fine-looking fizzing glass that gets pushed to you, a little highball, Allegra, and Roz looks at you and says, "May I make a recommendation? It's to be savored, although it is a bit of a acquired taste." And
Please, Roz, by all means, I trust your opinion.
And she says, be careful, it is a death.
A death.
It is literally, as you kind of, your gaze turns to the menu as her eyes kind of flicked, their eyes kind of flick to it. It is literally the distilled essence of someone's actual death.
Well,
Okay, I should have read the menu.
I can't say that I've had this before, but I'll have to give it a try.
And as you sip it, you have a set of words in mind, a last utterance, if you will, of somebody on their deathbed who has lived for far too long, who has seen much, and you are getting the beginnings of the flashback to the earlier parts of their life as they die in bed.
Does this play out in front of my eyes like a movie reel, or is it more just like flashes in my mind?
It's flashes, and Roz kind of nods courteously to you.
I really like the subtle notes here, Roz. You've managed to achieve something quite remarkable with this drink.
And Roz kind of looks at you and says, I had been hoping to make that impression. If you'd like, I've made your game for you, if you prefer. And there is a small parlor table on which rests a chess set.
I can see that despite the fact that I haven't been in quite a while, you've managed to keep up this tradition, huh?
I never forget.
We'll see if you can beat me this time. And I think she looks at the board and like sees it is exactly the way that it was left like many, many, many years ago when Allegra was last here. And it's left in that exact same place. And she studies the board and then very delicately picks up the rook and moves it to kind of castle Roz's.
And you just hear Roz say, more conservative than normal. And without Roz making a move or otherwise kind of approaching the table, you see a knight move in response. Kieran, I think at this point you're the only person who hasn't had a drink. Are you drinking?
Kieran is standing there on full alert. Just because they walked from a war zone into a bar doesn't mean this isn't still a war zone. And he's scanning for threats. He's not indulging in whatever the fuck this is. And waiting for a moment to figure out how to get out of here and complete the mission with what he imagines is something extremely dangerous and unstable in his bag. He's also fighting to kind of stay focused with whatever his third eye that he chucked into an open dimension portal is picking up right now.
So one thing I'd like you to do then is I would like you to make me a perception roll. And we're just going to kind of set it, spend however much you like. We're going to see what you get. And it's going to be a measure of how well you can focus your attention between all of this threat assessment and all of this kind of intrigue in this new place and what is going on when you are trying to perceive through your third eye.
So yeah, I think his focus right now is to remain in zeros, at least mentally. Spend a bene on this.
Okay.
It's a 6 on the dice, 7 all day.
Okay, so I am going to pull a card. Our first card of the day. Our first catch of the day. I'm going to switch us to the path. Okay. Ooh. This one's fun. The Jackal. The nemesis of mysteries, rats, mirrors, and stone. Meanings: intimidation, power, ruthlessness, dark magic, and necromancy. This intimidating fellow is a dread figure to be certain. The Jackal represents everything Nons fear about Visley: threatening displays of destructive power, dark, soul-twisting spells, ruthless, unforgiving magic that taps into death, demons, and worse. Power for power's sake, he is selfish, megalomaniacal figure willing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants. The Jackal is the nemesis of the Mysteries family. Many believe, however, that he is a literal being and not just a symbol on a card. Some believe all the royalty cards show real immortal beings. If he is real, he is some kind of diabolic figure that not only uses dark magic, but offers it to others willing to use his methods. Okay. The tagline for this is, the Jackal bides his time, waiting to escort us into death personally. And let me just read the divination here. Ooh.
But that's a good line.
Yeah.
I am the Mysteries family, by the way.
This one is, that is your, yeah. So you have -2 to all of your actions.
Oof, that's me as well, because we have the same family.
Yeah, so power or authority, but even then, usually only to a ruthless or intimidating figure. Sorry, it's taking me a while because I want to treat this with the gravity it requires. Ooh, okay. So let me see.
The suspense.
Yeah, so I will tell you this. As you are looking around the bar, there are people taking notice of you. Several of whom you recognize from the glowing glyphs on their foreheads as minor demons of the red in particular. And they're all kind of pointing your direction and kind of like looking on as you and your friends seem to be discomfited by your time in Zeros, or at least you do. And you realize your discomfort is what's drawing their attention to you. What do you do?
Quick world question. What, if any, threat does the enemy pose to, say, the Red Sun?
What threat? It's unclear. Most of the offensive has been positioned within Indigo, in Saturnine. But the thing that you do know is that occasionally you do have missions to acquire or sabotage weaponry from the Red Sun. And do remind me, what has been your personal experience with demons?
Varied and numerous. Kieran spent many years in the Red. It's where he first acquired his third eye. He found it in the Red. So he is not unfamiliar with demons and their tendencies and proclivities.
And I think you see one of them begin to approach your party. And this thing, whatever it is, it looks like a sallow face looking out of a hedgework of brambles and thorns, and two glimmering yellow eyes peer at you. You hear it say in a very deep and dark...
It's walking over?
It's walking over to you.
Kieran, as it begins to speak, Kieran is beelining it towards them with great purpose.
You're beelining towards the demon.
Like boots clopping on the ground very aggressively.
Okay. You there in a flash. What are you trying to do? Because this thing was about to kind of say something.
Basically, I see you. I know what you're about. Don't fucking mess with me or my friends. I'll end you.
All right. Make an interaction.
We're friends?
Make it.
Oh, fuck you guys.
My colleagues, my work
mess with me
associates.
and my professional acquaintances. This is a interaction?
Yeah, this is interaction. I'm going to say this is a 6.
Cool. Spending a Benny. That's a 9 on the dice. That's a 10 all day.
So 10 minus 2 from your nemesis.
Oh god, yeah, that's right.
So I will say this as you kind of move to intercept this demon, which is in its corporeal form. You just hear this awful voice speak out to you from the hedges. I thought you looked familiar. And as it looks like you are about to come to blows momentarily, I think that before you even get a chance to say anything, quicker than you could perceive, Roz is down by the side of the bar. May I remind you, gentle folks, violence is strictly prohibited within Zeros. And there is a crackle in the air as this demon looks at Roz, but more accurately past Roz at the mantle, and then looks back to you and turns and rejoins its demonic brethren.
Kieran stays there standing like a statue for several moments, waiting, like playing the staring game, waiting for the table of demons to break their gaze.
And I think that with that roll, in spite of the nemesis, I think that all of them kind of whisper to each other and then turn. And you feel a cocktail napkin underneath. I think that your hand wouldn't be on the bar. It would be at the side.
Yeah, I was kind of like walking through, away from the bar towards the dude.
Yeah, and I think what you do is you feel, you hear Roz again clear their throat. Perhaps a beverage could put you more at ease. and there is a very delicate, almost kind of Chardonnay-esque colored liquid that seems to be effervescent by your side.
Kieran turns to her with his head and nods and takes the drink, kind of pivots sharply away from the demons and walks back towards the bar, sets the drink on the bar, and kind of clutches tightly to his bag and kind of stares off into space.
Make me a perception roll.
Sure. That's a 4 on the die, so that's a 2.
Okay. Feel like you're missing something. There's like, I think that it's just the adrenaline. But
Kieran checks if his seam ripper's still there.
It's still there.
Pats looks at the bag.
As you do that, you are taking a look at the bag and checking within to make sure its contents are still there. What are the rest of you guys doing?
I think like Mott's sort of watching this and is just sort of staring at Kieran like he's so paranoid by everything right now, and he's just like, you know what your problem is? You need to relax. The heart's gonna give out if you keep going on like this. We got what we came for. Mission went off.
Your mask is just like the most like death starey scowl, but Kieran is saying nothing.
And
Did you not hear us? The doors are gonna open. We're gonna get reunited with the rest of our crew.
Fantastic. He looks up at Roz and says, and pushes the drink very slowly and politely. May I have a water, please?
And they look at you and they take the very fine looking beverage back. Once again, the liquid seems to pour in reverse into a bottle that is behind the counter, and you have another glass in front of you of very clear, very familiar, transparent liquid. I need you to make me another perception roll.
Another 4 for 2.
Okay. Again, there's something, I think that's just this place puts you ill at ease. Okris, what are you doing?
Finishing pulling the rest of the mask out of their face. Okris has taken a cocktail napkin and is delicately placing it so as not to be disrespectful to the bar, and is just pulling bits of this melted metal out of their face, as it was so rudely melted off my freaking face.
Yeah. And as you do that, I think that everybody's kind of... I think that Roz is looking on in appreciation for the fact that you're not chucking more parts of your face at the bar. But yeah, what was it?
Like peanut shells.
And yeah, I think that you are beginning to kind of hear just kind of like the murmur of people and denizens in the bar. Everett seems to be really enjoying himself kind of in his old stomping grounds. Allegra is looking at very intently at a chessboard, and Kieran is once again very much wound as tight as a spring.
Okris is definitely kind of hasn't had another drink but is watching Kieran. This creature looks like it's about to snap.
The difficulty of like going through your bag to make sure everything's in there is when it's a 5x5 space inside. It's really hard.
I will say this, as you look through your bag, Kieran, everything seems fine. It seems to be exactly where you left it.
Including the giant tentacle.
Including the giant tentacle.
Okay.
Actually, I will say this. I'm going to pull another card real quick.
All right.
Yeah. You asked for that one.
Oh no.
However, you're
sorry
no
for asking about the tentacle.
You're no longer affected. Ooh, God.
Oh god.
The inevitable cataclysm.
Ugh.
bad luck,
Worst
endings,
card.
inevitability, breaking a relationship.
Why have you done this?
While we
Of
fear
all the cards.
while we fear the cataclysm, it is inevitable. We cannot prevent it. The end comes for all things eventually, and we cannot stop it. The earth quakes, the seas advance, the skies fall. Fire engulfs everything. We can try to survive it, but that's likely the best we can hope for. An optimist might try to say that a cataclysm can be cleansing and change things for the better, but the inevitable cataclysm really isn't about that. It's about endings. A significant relationship comes to an end. Disaster strikes. A structure collapses.
I feel like I should get a benefit from this card.
I think you should too. Towers topple. Creatures die. Everything has an ending. Ooh, I like this.
You guys should read my Forte ability, because I've never read any of those cards, and it reads a lot like that.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So here's the thing. You already got faced with your nemesis, and I feel like having like endings be in the title, this is definitely a card for, I'm going to say that this is a joy, actually. As you are sorting through your bag, looking through all of your apparatuses, you hear the shuffling of feet, or kind of something approximating it, as several demons begin advancing on you, seeing now this opening. And the one that was sticking its long claw out of the brambles is about to strike you, Kieran, when you just watch it evaporate into ash and disintegrate. And that is when Roz's eyes, like their hair, have turned black, Vanta black, deep, inky black. And you just hear, without their lips moving, an echoing, foreboding voice that, let me just double check one thing. That as it speaks, it rumbles in the pit of your diaphragm.
My rule about violence within these grounds still stands.
And it's kind of like that moment in the cantina when everybody kind of pretends to not have seen this horribly graphic disintegration. Kieran, you may take a joy. What do all of you do?
What the hell did you do? If you get me kicked out of my only favorite place, I swear.
Kieran, very a wry smirk appears on Mott's face, and Kieran sips the water and says, "What did I do? And what did that poor fellow do?"
You were the one rummaging through your bag, and then that poor sod just sort of evaporated.
Do you victim blame much? Opening my bag is an invitation
You're
for...
the one that won't relax. You almost got into a fight with that other demon bloke. What am I supposed to think?
As you've, as kind of all of you are watching this scene unfold, several of the Vances in that party have actually retreated over to your table, Allegra, kind of reflexively looking for a more authoritative figure.
I've acquired a small collection, a flock of Vances.
They needed an adult.
And
I believe the term is a library of Vances.
Quite.
And one of them, who seems to be very reedy and thin, with a kind of thin mustache over his upper lip, just says, are we all right here? Should we report back, or?
Oh, I wouldn't be concerned, youngling. It's nothing you've done. Just respect Zero's rules and you should be fine. And her gaze has only like temporarily flicked away from the chessboard. And I think when the voice like boomed out the way that it did, like Roz's king on the chessboard fell over, and like a little smile kind of like quirked up Allegra's face, and she was like, do we count that as a check or not? But like it quickly righted itself once things stabilized. So She, I think, doesn't really understand like why the young Vances might be afraid. To her, it's just sort of like, carry on. This is normal.
Yeah, and I think as the young man kind of turns away from you, you kind of reflexively look at their badge. They're kind of like the name emblazoned on their field jacket, and it reads Bookridge.
Oh, like, interesting.
And
question for you, Zach. How much reaction do our normal PCs kind of get within the construct of like seeing through these eyes? Do they get like a moment of like reflexivity?
Absolutely. You have a very keen moment of recognition. Kiri, as you kind of look back through Allegra's eyes. Yeah, and so I think all of you are kind of looking on. Allegra, you're still, I think that Mott and Kieran, you're still kind of arguing. Okris, where are you in this kind of tableau?
This is great. Like, Okris actually probably has body language that is the only time you have ever seen them even look remotely relaxed or chill. Like, they don't have resting, mangled bitch face. They have, all right, we're in a bar. This is, and they're gonna, Okris just kind of gives another little wave to Roz.
And I think at this point, Roz seems to have kind of diminished in that kind of sense of power, and their eyes are once again no longer fully black. But they do kind of look to you and then kind of gesture towards the back, and you just hear, I think your time is up. I think that the event space should be ready now.
Fair enough. And Okris is gonna stand up and push the stool back with. So does everybody else see the bar differently individually? So it looks like they're making the most god-awful screeching noise with whatever is you see as the stool equivalent. But the screeching noise still comes through. And they stand up, kind of stretch, make sure that the sledgehammer is still in place on their back, and time to go.
And as you guys kind of make your way, can you give me a marching order, or what are you guys kind of, how are you guys moving to this kind of back area?
I would say Kieran's probably in the front, even though he doesn't know where he's going. Finally.
Mott finishes the rest of his drink and probably springs up onto his feet, pretty psyched to check in with certain people, make sure everyone's still okay.
And yeah, go ahead.
I think probably Allegra is maybe second, just because she doesn't want to be outdone, and the fact that Kieran is first makes her feel uncomfortable. So she's like, I have to be right up there with him.
And finally, Okris, are you bringing up the rear? Okay.
Something has to be at the end.
Excellent. As you kind of make your way towards the back, it's kind of like this curtained area, or kind of it's very much kind of whatever you're perceiving, it is very much kind of like a partition or separation, whether it's a fine curtain or kind of like a half wall kind of jutting out. And as you make your way towards the back, you see a door, a very kind of inconspicuous door that, as you approach it, opens. And walking out is a figure that none of you have met. And as you kind of take a look at this person, Maurice, you have the very distinct and disquieting feeling of seeing yourself. And as the door has opened, can you describe what a young Maurice might look like?
No beard, about 50 pounds lighter, a bit more tan. The eyes are the same. And he has a generally friendly disposition almost all the time.
And the one thing you'll notice in addition above the congenial eyes are 3 narrow slits that seem to align with the eyes below them.
Zach.
And as you kind of see this person, what does Maurice's voice sound like, Bill?
It has a slow Texas drawl.
Oh man, you gotta. Oh, all right, fair enough. Texas drawl it is. And it says, I don't know what everyone said, getting all riled up in there, but they're expecting you now, I believe.
Gabrielle in the Animus is just sort of like having a blue screen moment.
And yeah, as you do this, there is a meaningful eye contact that passes between you and this figure, Kieran, and you just hear him say, well, good luck in there, and he clasps your wrist. Here's the thing. The hand that is grasping your wrist, like clasping it, is not the one of the 2 at his sides. And you just hear in your mind, very quietly, you hear, we're going to have to speak about your mission, you and I. Look for a communique from me soon. And he places this and he just kind of nods to all of you. Is he wearing a cap of some sort?
He's wearing the that military uniform that you described earlier in that little flashback scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And he just kind of bows to all of you and again says, I wish you all luck. And all of you walk past him. And as you kind of exit Zeros, you find yourselves back in the headquarters that you left at the inception of the operation. And you are all kind of looking at 3 out of the 4 generals, kind of waiting as there's kind of a buzz in this area of your briefing room. Do all of you file in straight away?
Think so.
Oh yeah.
And as you kind of make your way in, there are several generals. Notably absent is Zaleska. However, General Ordo Rem and I believe our trying to remember, I'm keeping track of so many NPCs. Bill, the hero general that we're familiar with.
Shoot. Give me a second. Yeah, no, I got him. Hold on.
Forgot your boss's name.
Nahara.
Yeah. Naharan is also the Ordo Rem, General Rem and General Naharan are having what appears to be a very animated discussion. One thing, would you make me an intellect roll, Kieran?
Sure. And I got one to spend, so why not? That's a 10 minus 2 is 8.
You don't have a negative anymore.
Oh, I thought because I still don't know how this works. Okay, cool.
So you, with a 10, you recognized who that figure was, by the way.
Okay.
You, at least vaguely. Actually, no, you would know very well who that was. That was somebody with a seat on the council. And as
What?
Okay.
Are you gonna fucking
Okay.
uh,
Okay. Okay. All right.
yeah, as
Oh, fuck you. No, really? Okay, cool.
Just
We're
not
doing
gonna
this.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
It's just secrets and mysteries, right?
Love you, Zach.
That's what this game is. Okay.
and yeah, as you are making your way in, as if to kind of affirm what you just heard, Neheron's kind of says, you barely overhear, but why would His Highness have found his way here, of all places? This is highly irregular. And General Rem looks to Neheron just in kind of like aghast, and that is when they turn to face you. Ah, yes. Welcome. Was your operation a success?
Kieran says, it was. I have a sample, highly dangerous. Need assistance in extracting it.
I think like Allegra jumps in. We have a sample, and it was collected collectively on behalf of all of us.
Yes, they all helped.
I'm the one who cut off the sample, Kieran, if you recall.
By all means, grab it out with your bare hands.
Bot does not care about this for like the credit debate. Where is General Shia?
General Kazan actually at that moment walks in, just in a very kind of a harried kind of expression on her face as she kind of moves in, and then kind of looks with kind of I won't say delight, but actual kind of relief to see your countenance.
That's amazing. That's one of the first times I think in 3 sessions where the emotions that Mod has been having and the emotion of the person that he's looking at is the same.
Excellent. I love it. Yeah, there is a there's this moment, and she moves and to kind of approach all of you, and I think singling out Mott. Just, oh good, you're back. Everything's safe. Did anybody have any problems? Anything all right?
Nothing that we couldn't handle.
And there's kind of a sly smile that crosses her face. And you just see Neheron and Rem. Neheron looks to say, General Kazan, pleasure to have you here. Sorry we had to have our little rendezvous a little bit earlier, but council business technically supersedes those of the army. And says, please, all of you, would you please go ahead and bring the asset to a secure location for General Rem? And Rem looks to all of you, says, so glad to have all of you back in one piece. Anyway, I'm very excited to see what you've got there.
Mop.
I assume Kieran would know a safe place to take this in the maker camp or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. There is kind of like a it's very similar to kind of like the Q Central that you saw in the first episode. There is basically kind of like that extra dimensional space within like this large HQ tent, and you can very easily make your way there.
What time of day is it? Because it was overnight on the mission.
This was very much, this would be at night. This was a night mission. It would still be very dark because Zeros only appears at night.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and spend 2 sorcery to maintain my extra dimensional space for the next day.
Probably wise. Okay. Okris, it seems like you have something you want to say.
I'd like to go talk to my handler.
Yeah, and so you make your way up to Neheron then.
Uh-huh.
And I think that as you kind of make your way, Neheran looks to you and says, "Job well done. I've been speaking with Corporal Jaren, however, and it seems you put a little bit of fear into the troops, as it were." You know,
And-
say.
And
And I find that our troops do best when the people that they work with believe that they're on their same side, at least the higher ups and the officers.
I'm not gonna lie to them.
Well, you may soon find yourself having to lie to them. We are beginning to have an urgent need for leadership within the ranks.
Probably the first time anybody's ever seen Okris laugh.
I'd like you to make an intellect roll for me. Or you can actually choose interaction if you prefer.
Let's see, which one of those is not awful. I think I have a Bene in at least one of those. Okay, I'll do a interaction. I think I cleared my Vex already, so that'll be a 4 + 1 for a 5.
There is something that is in Neheran's manner. Neheran is a very experienced general, and has a great deal of cachet with the troops. Natural born leader is something that's often spoken of with regard to Neheran. And so there's something about the poise that's giving something away, but you can't quite tell what it is. There's something about like an inflection in the voice. And there's something that you feel kind of like at the center of yourself that aligns with the idea of endings, but it's hard to touch.
So I can tell that there's something there?
There is something there.
I don't do subtlety.
Oh,
I
good.
don't want to be here. Tell me what you want.
In due time. In the meantime, I think that we will need to go ahead and conduct a debriefing. Each of you, I believe, has business to conduct with your respective generals. We may have further use and need of you in the near future.
You gonna make me work with these people again?
It seemed to work so well the first time.
Yeah.
Getting a very big Jack Nicholson vibe off of you right now.
Honestly, like, yeah.
Honestly, just wanted to eat some knowledge.
Yeah, so
Look, that is not who Okris is. Thank you very much. Don't besmirch my beautiful baby death machine.
Don't get me wrong. No, I love it. I love it. It's just a vibe. But you just hear Neheran look to you and just say, "Prepare a debriefing. Dismissed for now."
And Okris turns and walks away.
And yeah, at that point, I was gonna say, what are the rest of you guys doing?
Maud sort of just falls right back into like lockstep with General Kazan. Like you saw the second that she kind of showed up, he just sort of changed position to stand like ramrod straight directly kind of at her side but slightly behind. He just sort of took up the mantle of bodyguard, like mission's done, back to my day job.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you do this, you kind of fall in step. Kazan, why don't you go ahead and give me you can give me an interaction roll. I will add 1 to your venture.
Oh my. I'm so used to playing a character that doesn't know how to interact with anybody that I forget that this character totally knows. I'm gonna pop a Bene into that. Why not? 7.
Okay. I will say that General Kazan is not necessarily the you get a sense, I would call this a mixed success. You get the sense that there is something to her demeanor that is a little bit more harried and a little bit more urgent than usual, and you notice that her pace is a little bit quicker as she begins making her way in the direction of the Pathwalker Camp. And as you kind of match stride for stride with her very easily. Actually, now that we have this moment, can you describe for me what Shia Kazan looks like?
She's average height for a woman, for Vizsla. I forget what I'm probably going to end up accidentally retconning myself because I forget what I said in the first episode. Everything is to be taken with a grain of salt. I believe I said that she had shortish brown hair.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about her is she's fairly average, except she carries herself with the demeanor of one who has seen far beyond someone of her age seems to you would normally think when you looked at her. I think the one thing that really stands out is that she has eyes of two different colors, one green and one purple.
Mm-hmm. And she also has, I think, that constellation of symbols of the suns that she has visited.
The bandolier.
Yeah, the bandolier. And as you're kind of like making pace with her, she's kind of almost reflexively fidgeting with one of the medallions that is in the center of the bandolier and closest to her hands. It's probably the indigo medallion, just kind of fidgeting with it. And she looks to you and says, I was so worried that you were going to come back in one piece. Things have been a little bit disturbing from what I've been hearing about news coming from the front.
But no incursions this close to camp.
Well, we're not very far away from a base near that landing site that you've in which you were deployed, but there's no telling how things could move. I mean, location is not a matter of issue for any of us. That much is true. By the way, has she code switched with you? Or do you speak her language fluently enough?
I think she's taught me a couple of other languages. We might be bopping between a few of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's this kind of like, there's this urgency as she kind of like switches to this urgency in her voice, I think it's kind of coming in and out and trying to, because there is that kind of sense of like, I'm trying to find the most efficient way to speak to you right now.
You're not telling me something.
And she looks to you and she says, and I'm gonna pull a card, actually.
Not what I expected.
Yeah.
But now I'm scared. Thank you.
Yep. I do my best. Savage Sword. The sword is a weapon of war, a metaphor for any kind of weapon one might wield. The savage sword is our basest nature, our predilection toward violence, and our shameful bloodlust. But it is also our strength to overcome obstacles and foes when we need to. It is the opposite of thought, strategy, or consideration. It is immediate and decisive without hesitation or regard for consequence. The savage sword is the opposite of the revealing knife in most respects. So I'm going to say there was nothing that could stand before him when the savage sword was drawn. I will say this. I think that this card, she looks like she's about to tell you something important. And she stops herself and she says, I'm just worried that the tide can turn at any moment. And I'm not concerned for our evacuation. I think that travel is the least of our worries. I am, however, afraid for the army. And as she says this, you realize she's hiding something. And you think back to what your partner said before giving you the assignment, which is be careful of her. She uses people.
That thought goes in, and like a mental slap down, Mott literally shoves it aside, doesn't want to think about that, and he crosses his arms and it's just, well, We got a good look at some of the numbers. Not gonna lie, what they can do, it's beyond, I think, what many of the rest of Vizsla can do. I'm gonna suggest it again just because I gotta do it every day. I know what you're gonna say, but there are other sons. We could just leave. You could just leave, rather. You could just leave.
And
I know what you're gonna say.
She's shaking her head. What are you gonna? She shakes her head. She says, "I'm too important here. There's too much that needs to be done."
You make it so difficult to do my job sometimes.
But you've been able to do it with aplomb so far.
I don't know if I can physically hold back whatever those things are. They're not like anything I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot.
I think there's more to them than meets the eye.
They seem like, well, not one to judge, but they're far beyond me. I can't get a read on them.
And she there's a point where the tent parts and there's a brick wall, and she reaches into a pocket and produces a stick of chalk and draws a door, which you have grown very accustomed to, as this is her way to get back to the camp. She draws the door, she draws a circle to represent the knob, and then she kind of pulls it open, and she walks the path with you, and takes your hand, grasping your wrist to pull you through.
Oh, he goes like rigid at that, but follows.
Yeah, and yeah, there is that fear that you experience as you kind of go through this space, and you always kind of are worrying to yourself, is this the moment when you go back to the accidental space? And as she pulls you through, the grasp of her wrist, of her hand again around your wrist, reassures you, and you find yourself in the beginnings of the outskirts of the Pathwalker encampment within the larger headquarters. And we're going to revisit that as she seems to ignore what you're saying. Okay, so Allegra, Kieran, Okris. Actually, Allegra, what do you do after you're kind of dismissed by Naharin?
I think having looked around and not seen Zaleska, and sort of seeing all of her compatriots kind of pair off with their respective generals and her kind of left alone, you see very briefly just like a worried expression cross her face, but it's gone almost instantly. And seeing as that, you know, she doesn't have anyone to kind of debrief with, I think she's going to retreat to her mind palace.
Absolutely. And for everybody, kind of describe what this is for us.
Yes. So a mind palace is an object of power, and it is basically a small bronze icon of a palace. That's how it manifests physically. But it means that the possessor can retreat into a purely mental space, disappearing entirely from the physical world. Technically, the mind palace exists in the noosphere, but it has no direct access to any other places or people there. It starts small, but as the user continues to use it, they can build it out so that it becomes kind of massive, and can spend time like filling it with people and projections. Within the palace, the character gets to rest, contemplate, or relax, but because the mind palace only contains things from the possessor's memory, they can't, for instance, read a book that they haven't already read or have a conversation with someone that they haven't actually met. Physical wounds don't heal, and Surreptitious pools can't be refreshed, but mental wounds do heal, and qualia pools do get refreshed. The possessor can invite anyone willing to join them, but the person must reveal their secret soul and secret name to do so.
Oof. Yeah. Okay. So, as you make your way into the palace, can you describe what this looks like for us, and how built out is it?
Yeah, so I think Allegra's Mind Palace takes the shape of a labyrinth. In saying that, I mean, the way that labyrinths were sort of used in medieval times to reflect contemplation, that actually the journey through the labyrinth was akin to working through a thought or thinking through a piece of philosophy. It was kind of the material reflection of, dealing with something complicated. And so I think Allegra's labyrinthine mind palace is all outdoors, actually. I think it's open air, green grass at her feet, flowers all around. The walls are made of rough hewn stone, but stacked so high that you couldn't even, dare to climb over them. And it's as many labyrinths, she can never see the center. She's never been to the center of this mind palace. She's only ever stepped foot in it and traced the paths, trying always to get to that center, but never actually making it there. And so I think she's probably made it through, I'd say, like a third of the maze of her mind. So that's how much has been built out. She usually uses her mind palace not only as a place to recharge, but also as a way to kind of build and think on complex concepts. And so she's kind of, in some ways, really made it through a third of herself in trying to interrogate the nature of her own mind, somewhat, in a somewhat meta sense.
And as you kind of enter, Sophanox, out of kind of habit, swirls off into the sky, but never really seems to kind of navigate around the center, or if it does, if he, by the way, Sophanox, he or she?
He.
Or they. Well, he kind of circles around the, even when he circles around the center, he actually ends up never really seeing the center. It seems to kind of be occluded within his vision. So it kind of he spirals off kind of happily, winging around the mind palace, as it were. Where do you go, and what do you do there?
I think she continues to sort of pace the paths, as she always does when she's here, sort of thinking through one foot in front of the other, processing all the events that she's just been through. But strangely, I think differently than many of her past visits to her mind palace, there's almost like a static flickering frame. So, if the camera's sort of watching her do this, there are like some sudden jump cuts, like a horror movie where the continuity's been disrupted, and you hear a couple of sentences just completely out of context. I am not a child. I had it handled. I do not need you or the Telemeric Court's intervention. And rising up in front of Allegra's face, almost actually materially, I think, in this case, flashing in front of her vision, is the face of a man with powerful shoulders, fierce, dark face, eyes that seem to kind of flash and glitter with a savage laughter, sort of like giving off a stony disdain, like something like a statue that's been carved to perfection, but also unflinching and aloof. And I think the second that this face appears in front of Allegra, it strikes her almost as though she's been hit physically, and she takes a step back. The second she blinks, the face disappears from her vision.
And just, I think, seeing your father is enough to kind of catch you off your guard, and you are further thrown from it as you feel a spell take hold and summon you and pull you out of your mind palace. You realize that this is a spell that many Vances learn, which allow them to summon Parasad at will to a place where they are urgently needed. However, it seems customized and made with a great deal of care, and with no small amount of great craftsmanship and spellcraft, as you find yourself looking into the face of Zaleska, who is standing seemingly no worse for wear from the battle in which you saw her. Yes, she is no longer wearing this kind of blue countenance to battle out armor. There is still that cobalt blue streak in her hair, and she is standing in front of you and says, "Situation report."
Complete? Well, at least our part. Have you finished fighting?
And she says, "Yes, very much. It was a dirty job, but it is something that is no general should be beneath. It should be beneath no general, rather."
And I suppose you saw it necessary then, having been watching me behind my eyes. I felt it, you know.
Well, yes, I would say that it's very much a necessity in order to preserve as many advanced lives as I can.
Necessity. And yet you couldn't have been bothered to have told me? You know, just mentioned that the magic you cast on me was so that you could watch through my eyes, potentially access my thoughts. Who knows what that spell did? I know you're capable of more, Zaleska. I know you're capable of a great many things, but apparently communication with your mentee is not one of them.
While it is your prerogative to cast aspersions on my methods, it is not your prerogative to question your superior officer.
Oh, I disagree. I think when you've asked me to do something specifically at your bequest, that I have every right to know exactly what I'm getting myself into and exactly what kinds of magics that I'm accepting so trustingly from you as part of your, what did you call it, gift? Protection?
It was very much protection. Having seen through your eyes, you've already seen the fates that has befallen another member of our order who was less careful around this asset, as it were. Would you have preferred to have the same fate befall you?
Certainly not, but I do not need to be coddled, and I do not need to be watched. I had it taken care of.
Was that before or after the additional squads of enemy made their way to your location?
You said to call your name. You said to say Meralda Zaleska if I needed you, and if you were in trouble, or if I was in trouble, that you would then appear. Did I say your name?
You may find yourself in the future in a situation in which you do call my name and yet I cannot come.
But I know when I am out of my depth, and I am not yet out of my depth. Why won't you trust me on this?
I do trust you.
Do you?
Magister, I trust you implicitly. That is why you are fighting alongside me, and that is why I arrived to safeguard your life, because yours is as important as any advance within this army, more so as it is clear you are gifted with a strategic mind.
So this was just to protect me. For my own good, right?
Would you have preferred that no protection be visited upon you?
I would have preferred that you at least told me what you were going to do, and that I be given the agency to summon you when I needed, as opposed to you swooping in and deciding when it was right.
You will make a number of hard questions as soon as your detachment arrives. You will need to make a number of hard decisions, and in that capacity, maybe you will understand why I made the decision that I did.
But how am I to be prepared to make hard decisions if you make them for me?
Well, that will be the question. I am assigning you a squad of 6 Vances.
What do you wish me to do with them?
Lead them. Command them. Perhaps show some of this proactive initiative, this wisdom that you are proclaiming to have.
See, you wish me to teach them, like you've taught me.
I wish for you to safeguard them, because I cannot be everywhere all at once, contrary to appearances.
So you want me to babysit them? For you?
I am sure that they are all capable soldiers. It is up to you to marshal them how best they fit.
So this is, what, a delegation of authority, then?
Yes, in a way of speaking.
Very well. I shall accept this from you, but in the future, Zaleska, when you cast magics upon me, tell me what they're going to do first, and maybe have a little faith that I can handle a situation without your direct intervention.
Very well. That I will do. And as you are as she, and then she says, dismissed. And as you are kind of watching her, another doppelganger of hers walks into the tent with a decidedly more relaxed, less rigid face, and walks not only up to Zaleska and then suddenly into her as all of the shattered splinters of her reassemble into a kind of more complete whole. And you hear a sharp intake of breath as her eyes refocus, look at you and said, I said dismissed.
I think Allegra, upon seeing that, just briefly a finger goes to the shard of glass that hangs around her neck, almost reflexively. She doesn't even know she's doing it. But with that, I think Allegra, head held high, turns heel and retraces her steps out of her labyrinth, at which point she pops back into physical reality. Excellent.
We are going to do one quick scene and then we're going to do a 5 or 10 minute break. Kieran, you have been approached by Order Rem. Rem is kind of accompanying you back to the Maker's tent. Very excitedly kind of handling this bag and kind of package that you have with the asset. I'm just saying, did you have much trouble? Were the assets any, the additional weapons I provided, the artifacts, were they at all assistive in any manner?
If you could, sir, just be careful. And he's just kind of like not looking at the general, but looking at the bag, just like,
And as you see him just, oh, yes, of course, the utmost carefulness, don't worry. What was that? I understand the importance of this object. It's going to be, I believe it will revolutionize the battlefield, as it were. Tell me, what was it like when you encountered them? And as you kind of, what do you say to this, General, as you're kind of describing your debriefing?
I describe how, unlike any other type of mission I've been on, this affected me in my emotions, and the hatred that I felt emanating from the creature was something I was not prepared for, nor had encountered anything like it before.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. It seems to amplify emotions. Is that what you're telling me?
Not at all. I believe it is the very essence of hatred itself.
But yet it also seemed to affect your own emotional state. Fascinating.
Indeed. Fascinating is indeed a word to describe it.
Well, don't worry, we'll be sure to outfit you once again. Naharon has made it very clear that each of you is to be receiving a detachment.
Of what?
A detachment, a number of troops to be associated with you.
General, in all due respect, I work alone. This mission was barely a success. Despite that, I would prefer to be in the field where my skills are put to the utmost usefulness. I'm no leader.
Oh, don't get me wrong. You will be in the field. However, we find ourselves in need of good officers now.
You'll find none here, General.
Are you refusing a direct request?
Request, yes. Orders, You know I can't.
Noted. I will consult Naharon on this development. And as you hear him speaking to you, you hear in your mind that Texas drawl. As you hear, we need you to deliver the payload of your analysis at the usual dropping point. However, you should not trust anyone to whom you speak. Things are afoot here, more than we can possibly understand.
And Kieran plays it completely straight and is making sure that one eye is always on the bag that is in Rem's hand.
And as you kind of hear that, we're going to be back in 5-10 minute break. Actually, Chris,
I have an important Hopper has an important question. Since we saw what happened with the third eye, is that a figurative on the bag or a literal?
Oh, that is a figurative.
Okay, just checking. You didn't pop one out.
No, fair question, and the audience deserves to know.
Absolutely. So, Kieran, you are supervising the transfer of the asset from your belongings and possessions into the custody of the makers of the Saturnine army. Can you describe what this process is like as you kind of open your bag?
So the interior of this space inside the bag is a freezer. It is well below freezing. And there is basically, if the bag were to be put on the ground, it could be opened up that someone could then climb inside as if by a ladder. And I believe Kieran is probably on the interior of it with maybe at least one other person, delicately handling this tentacle piece out through the opening above.
And the person to which you are handing this inert piece of the hate cyst, rendered inert by the freezing nature of your bag, is a Braun, a fellow maker, who is just very genteelly kind of pulling it out alongside you, or kind of ahead, just being, and you just hear Ordo Rem behind you just saying, "Careful now, careful, careful, we don't want to shatter it now, do we?" And you guys successfully, very carefully pull this out of the bag. Now, it's very lucky you realize that your bag is a freezer, because you have a feeling that if this thing had been kind of in the state it was in, it may have metastasized. But the freezer has kind of rendered it inert. And you know, basically, you've been asked by this member of the council to deliver your intel. What are you kind of doing? What are you thinking about while all this is transpiring?
Kieran is, well, first looking to see if any parts of it maybe have flaked off or chipped off, that he might be able to analyze them on his own. But more so just getting everyone, like, this is kind of his home in a certain respect. So just like, can everyone just get out of my home, please? Get this cancer out of my home, please. And then before he can offer any sort of report, he would need to witness the preliminaries of the research being done by the makers. So as this is concluded, and assuming there are no bits and scraps that he might surreptitiously pocket, he will climb out of his bag and accompany the asset to where it will be studied.
Go ahead. I'm going to turn a card real quick. I'm going to see how this goes. Ooh, this one's good. This one is Hunter, the adept of notions, cats, clocks, and wind. nature, death, conflict, survival, seeking a goal. I will say this: we've had the hunter before. I will say that you do find a piece of this because you are looking for it. You are, in essence, the hunter here. A hunter in a ticking forest very likely seeks Eric's hounds, or they seek her. So, yeah, basically you are very much looking for something in particular. The number on the card is an 8. I'm going to go ahead and say that you do find a small but substantial flake of it. Would you like to go ahead and make me a movement, or either your choice, a movement or an accuracy roll to see if you can grab this thing surreptitiously?
What about a stealth roll?
That will totally count as well. Yes, absolutely. You may make a stealth roll.
The rat's soul gloves that I invoked the previous evening are still active, so my stealth is a +4.
Excellent. Okay. As long as you don't get a 0, let's see what you got.
I got a 1. So that's a 5 all day.
Okay. I will say Abron is very close to you. And as you grab surreptitiously this piece of the 8 cyst and quickly pocket it, you feel as though Abron kind of like, you accidentally, I think just probably through sheer nerves at this point, kind of having to divide your attention thusly, and also kind of keeping kind of what this member of the council said to you kind of at the front of your mind. I think you almost imperceptibly brush the leg of Abron's trousers as you pocket this thing. And Abron turns and looks to you and says, did you want something? Do you have everything you need? Have you got a grip?
Yes. Sorry, I'm not used to sharing this space.
And he kind of cocks his head at you a little bit and just continues kind of pulling this thing up.
I would like to, like, when this is done, gesture that I will follow Abron out of here. And as I do, not take this piece with me, but instead leave it in the bag, in the freeze.
Okay.
Setting it next to a structure that looks not unlike a loom that is functions as a wrong document that functions as my maker's conjurer.
Excellent.
That allows me to destroy ephemera objects and get out ingredients. And he kind of gives a look at that, and to outside observers, his intentions remain clear. And then he climbs up the ladder and sets out and closes the bag and follows wherever this tentacle is being taken to.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see something not unlike a operation theater, in which what appear to be several very powerful magical or kind of like glyphs and symbols of power are arrayed in a circle around what appears to be kind of a central dais or operating table. And you just hear Ordo Rem, just right there in the center is fine. The bindings should keep it in place, at least try to prevent some of the lesser desirable qualities of it. And yeah, do you kind of acquiesce?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, Kieran is kind of standing, hands clasped behind his back, and is watching, and maybe walks over to Rem and leans in closely to say, like, are we assessing its potentiality as a catalyst?
Well, as a catalyst, perhaps. I want to ascertain what sort of natural qualities it might have before we decide to break it down for parts, as it were. But you have the right of it. and says, "Now I am going to go ahead, let it stand to record. I am going to enter this circle and begin a diagnostic process." And he kind of looks at Abron and also at you and says, "Please take down your notes and record this for good measure, if you will." And he steps into the circle and takes what looks to be kind of a tool roll with him, and very neatly on the table next to the tentacle spreads out a number of tools. And they are all kind of strangely shaped. They're a little bit like surgery tools, but at the same time, a lot of them just seem to have shapes that are completely unnecessary for any kind of medical procedure. They seem to be elaborate, and some of these things they turn or kind of spin off of a wheel that don't seem to be usable for any kind of purpose. Others are emblazoned with very powerful, seemingly magical sigils. And as you kind of watch, he begins cutting into the tentacle while at the same time kind of appraising both of you of the process. And there are a few observations that kind of come up as Rem is kind of analyzing it. The very first thing he says, "Well, this seems to be if someone took a leave of hate, absolute, unadulterated, unquenchable hatred, and folded it one over the other, as if it were at a forge, like you might temper steel. Such gray thoughts seem to be applied to this creation. Normally, you could use the force of your will or your consciousness to stack such a thing, but you would reach a breaking point. Whatever created this thing is incredibly powerful." And as you are kind of listening to him, you just hear him say, "Like unto a god, I believe." And I'd like you to make me an interaction roll as you kind of try to read Rem's kind of professionalism here.
2.
That's a 2? Yeah, he's just like, I think that there's like a kind of a trepidation, even with a 2, like you get a trepidation in his voice as he's kind of like taking a look at this. And he says, "As far as I know, the wards are still holding, but I wouldn't let this get out, that's for certain. This thing could be highly unstable. It definitely seems to have some sort of growth property in it. I can see the enchantment practically radiating off of it, and I don't think this is the only kind there is." And Abron is kind of like turns over to you, and as you kind of are recording down the observations, Abron just says, "Is this as terrifying to you as it is to me?"
And Kieran at this point is finishing taking off the wraps around his face and looks over and gives a little bit more emotion than he has before and says, "Yes."
Good, that it's not just me. And he's continuing to take down. And Ordo is continuing the diagnostics. Wait, what? What's happening?
No, we just got some peanut galleries.
So as the kind of like the Ordo is continuing the diagnostics here, there is a couple of other things you learn, which is this thing, whatever it kind of could make, it could be basically turned into a level 13 catalyst, or it could be used as a standalone source of power. Basically, as it stood, if you were to marshal it and use it as it is now, basically it would be like a level 10 kind of source of energy. But if you were to distill it and kind of purify it, you could make a level 13 catalyst for whatever you wanted to build. And Ordo, kind of almost in time with this thought, is just kind of like, the potentialities of something like this are extraordinarily terrifying as well. And yeah, I think that is the key point that you get. And then there is something that Ordo says that is even more terrifying, which is, more reports are coming in of these things proliferating around the battlefield. But this is the only one we've managed to recover without being faced down by overwhelming opposition. My compliments to Master Kieran for procuring this sample. I hope that it does, in time, change the tide of the war. This concludes my official diagnostic report. And, yeah. At this point, Ordo concludes, and then kind of like sidles to both of you after you are done kind of reporting, and in a hushed whisper, or kind of the biggest approximation, like a stage whisper for Ordo, he says, we have to make sure this thing doesn't leave the circle. It's being contained here as best as we can manage.
I have an idea.
And
the squad of whatever you were going to give to me, how about you post them all here and let them stay there?
Is that your first official order, Commander?
For the time being, yes.
Very well. I will let General Neheiron know of your intention. And, yeah, that kind of concludes the operation. Now, we're going to cut from here. Okris, what are you doing?
Probably found some rocks to kick.
Yeah, so you've kind of found your way. Or would you say that you're outside of the kind of operational headquarters here? What do you think?
Probably on the outskirts of whatever this camp is. There's too many people here. Too much stuff.
There is, now, as you know, kind of I think that as you kind of are taking a look at the surroundings of this HQ, you are kind of struck by what might have been the quotidian beauty of this district of Upper Taverswood. And much of it, at least in the surrounding area, has been reduced to rubble. You find yourself at the outskirts of a garden that is half uptorn earth. Half of it is, very immaculately, but underneath kind of the debris, there are patches of immaculately kept grass, and spiraling through a couple of the rocks as though by sheer force of natural will, there is a flower of a deep purple hue that seems to peek out through some rubble. What's going through your head?
Oh, man. Wow. Okris reaches down and grasps it by the stem and pulls it, rips it out of the ground.
And there's a part of you that as you pull it, there's like a faint whisper of something inside of you that protests this, and yet so easily you put it to one side and you admire the flower, and it's beautiful in its ending.
I think, yeah, if I may, you literally you see the this purple start to fade, and the petals darken and brown as it begins to dry and seems to just crumble in Okris's hands before they clench their fist.
And that's as beautiful an ending as you can give a flower. You've heard tales of travelers to the Grey Sun, the land of illusion, where they see people seemingly prolonging the ending of flowers in some jar of water. And you think to yourself how hateful an act that must be when to prolong such suffering when so easily you can just snuff it out and let it give way and fertilize something new. It's at this moment you hear Neharan behind you. That's quite some talent.
I don't know if that came through the mic.
No, that came through.
Okay.
He's just kind of watching you with some interest. I suppose that a lack of mercy or a lack of compromise is a desirable quality in a mercenary.
You could say that.
It's a little bit far from how I normally conduct my forces, however.
You're trying to build something.
Trying and perhaps failing. But try I must. You know, it stands to reason that things can more beautifully and appropriately end if they're given the opportunity to be nurtured in the first place.
I'm not here to discuss philosophy.
I'm very terrible at it, so I'm glad to hear that. But it's important to me that I impress upon you that Saturnine must be given an opportunity to survive this conflict if things are to continue cyclically or to end at all.
Huh. You think that your little world is so important that if it ends, that's a problem?
It has to end sometime. It all does. But it should end on our terms.
You don't get to make that decision.
I don't get to make that decision, but I can tell you I am going to fight when some foreign power tries to intercede in our sun.
Go ahead and fight. I don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to discuss philosophy. I'm here because other forces want me to be here.
And what force?
I'm a weapon. Use me.
That can't be all that you want to be.
That's none of your business.
Well, I can't argue with your results. So, I am placing you in a command with people as cutthroat as you are, who have an appreciation of the finer points of endings as you do.
They don't make them like me. Not anymore.
I am beginning to ascertain this, yes. Suffice it to say, you and the other members of the Caderak are incredibly valuable operatives together, as well as apart, I'm beginning to realize. You will still do field work, but it is important to me that you bring the force of your personality to bear in order to have that much more of an effective and mercenary force. Are we clear?
We have met. Correct?
Yes, we have.
Far be it from me to tell you how to use a tool. But that's fucking stupid.
But it is my order. And I will say, there will be no shortage of endings. No shortage of finality you will find in your operations to come.
There never is.
I'd like you to make me an interaction roll as you kind of study the countenance of Naheron. It's very intense, this contact, this discussion that you're having.
Wait, double check to make sure I have more than one. For some reason, I have two, but I have two, a pool of two.
Hey, dumb stat for the win! Woo!
I don't know why I have two in there. I mean, but that's a 6 on the dice plus 1. That's a 7.
I'm gonna say that you get the sense that there is something that you sniff off of Naheron. The feeling of finality, of the thing that you I will say this is the thing you loathe the most. The idea of somebody putting off an ending, putting off finality. And you realize that a lot of this is a brave front. To what extent, you're not sure. But Naheron needs you, for lack of a better word. That is what you ascertain.
Well, if you think that having something like me lead a group of mercenaries is the best use of my abilities, that's your mistake to make.
And he nods. Good. And I shall go ahead with that mistake. Dismissed. No, wait. You're outside.
Okris doesn't move.
Yeah. And no,
like Okris literally gives I think there, well, to be fair, there's actually, even if he does say that, like,
yeah, just like I exactly, I think you just give him a curt nod. He doesn't say dismissed. You're not in the middle of a briefing room.
I honestly, even if he did though, like, I mean, there might be the tonal emphasis of that, but also I think there is clearly a, you get to tell me what to do, but you are not my superior kind of vibe here. That is exuding from Okris.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
think there's a certain amount of contempt to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think exactly. It's the thing that you hate the most. Like, as well-meaning as this figure is, as charismatic as he might be with any other contingent of this society, he is the thing you loathe. The idea that some sort of stagnation could settle in.
It's just, why? It's just kind of sad.
Yeah.
It's not even hate. It's just like, all right, dude.
So yeah, exactly. And I think, I think that he's used to having a more profound effect on other people and other Vizsla, and for whatever reason, not really making purchase here.
They
And
don't make them like ogres anymore.
they do not. And he leaves. And so we are going to rejoin one figure. I think Everett. What does the Pathwalker Camp look like within this kind of complex or during the war?
Oh man, I was not expecting that question. Let me give that just a brief moment of consideration. I think that it's not in its own little pocket space, is it?
I don't think so. I think that the door is a means to get someplace more quickly. It's not far. It's not like in a liminal space, I don't think.
Yeah, I feel like this encampment, as it is part of the larger whole, is... I think it's more colorful than the other than the rest of the encampment. It's like there are stations and tents that denote the different colors of the different sun, as if there might be some pathwalkers that are either from those regions or have an affinity for those regions. There are people wearing similar uniforms, however, again, like tweaked and dyed and stained with the different colors that they themselves represent or have affinity with. Some are notably colorless, wearing regular gray uniforms. The bandoliers vary, different sizes, different sigils, denoting again how many suns or the night sides that a particular pathwalker has seen and understood. I think overall it exudes a force of life, but literally not for any joy or anything like that, but just the sheer amount and varying degrees of it in this particular encampment.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, alive with color. There are people kind of talking excitedly. Some of these people are very young, you realize. I think that there are still even like families of soldiers that are kind of all serving. There are also, I think that there is probably I will say this, there's not really kind of like a sick bay or anything like that, because you have a feeling that if anybody was wounded, they could be sent to the Silver Sun to convalesce. These people who are here out of a sense of purpose and duty. They are basically like, even if you wanted to like think of them as like the chaplains or the Red Cross in the middle of battlegrounds. These are people that are taking people out of the environment where they can to be triaged. There are people that are being secreted into other suns away from the conflict. There is all manner of, and all these people are doing it out of a sense of duty, out of a sense of kind of their internal morality. And Shia, you will notice, like, notably relaxes and comes alive as other people begin other pathwalkers begin kind of coming up and like acknowledging her and bringing her back to herself, as it were. And so I think that, describe for me this kind of like, what is like customary here? Do you think that I think that this is a little bit more egalitarian. I think that this is a flat organization. Like, what does it look like when she speaks to confidants? Is it like in a private tent? Or is it around a fire? Is it?
I think for anything, because given that they are at war, for anything that's sensitive information, there's probably a tent for that. But anything that's more like any soldier would need to hear, or it's not classified information, definitely just you can stop her and have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that she kind of like motions for you, and you are joined by two other members of her honor guard on either side. I believe it's Adira and Shahan. And basically this man and this woman who are both kind of lean and kind of very on the tallish side. About, I think that Adira is slightly shorter, about probably like 5'7", but Shahan is maybe 6'1". And basically the two of them you are very familiar with. These are, you have slowly, as you've kind of been picking up more of their language and more of their culture, they have begun to trust you, not implicitly on like, but there's been beginning to be like a slow, uneasy friendship here. I think that they are kind of still having misgivings, but it is solely due to Shia's influence that they've become to accept you as much as they can. You know, I think Adira and Shahan both look at you, and Shahan kind of success them.
If you think finding some kind of weird weapon that could wipe everybody out is success, then yes, I guess so.
And I think that each of them, and Adira just kind of like looks and says, well, what was it like out there? Neheiron tells us nothing. And Shia kind of just begins, in due time, discretion, and she begins walking towards her tent, which, as you can see, is kind of festooned with, again, a lot of the symbols of where she's been traveling through the path, as it were, kind of all of the different suns. What kind of, as you kind of walk into this tent, is there any kind of personal effect of hers that has really struck you every time that you visit her? Is there something that she always keeps on her?
She has a necklace that, ironically enough, is, I think, in the shape of a crescent moon.
And she, yeah, there is kind of like, I think, adorning the wall in which she kind of, so you would, is this something she keeps on her person, or would she say it adorns one side of her tent?
Oh, you mentioned something that she has on her, so I went with that.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that yeah, she's kind of holding on to it. And she as she kind of secrets them into the tent, all of the other pathwalkers kind of nodding to her and letting her know, and kind of like saying their gladness and their kind of like relief that she's there. She enters the kind of general's tent, closes the flap, and she wraps around the tassel the crescent moon. And that is when kind of the air grows heavier, and you realize that you are now effectively as clandestine as you want to be. And she looks at all of you and says, right, Everett, tell me everything that transpired.
For time, I'm going to say that he does so.
Yeah, and yeah,
recounts all of the details of the fight, the numbers that he saw, the portals that they were using, and does his best to describe that Sith spawn.
And as you kind of are describing the Helminth, there is also kind of like this, like, there is a notable kind of like feeling of revulsion and disgust. And so that Shia exudes, and she looks to you and just says, bad things are afoot. The tide of the war is turning, and not in our favor. I think that these creatures, these weapons, they represent a new phase that none of us are prepared for. I think that we need to begin a new operation. I think that we need to begin evacuating the city.
To go where?
I have spoken to other members of our people throughout the order, throughout the actuality. I have spoken to the angels. And I think that I might have a way to safeguard as many people as we can. There are rumors that the gray sun can provide solace and shelter for those who would make their way out of the war zone. It's illusory, but that illusion provides some measure of protection, I believe. And it is said that the warden of that sun has absented his post. I hope to learn more of some sort of means by which we can transport people, but Neheiron is beginning to ask more and more of us. More evacuations, more traversals of terrain for operations. We're being stretched thin. And I need you to be my eyes and my ears. Is why I so readily offered your services as a member of the Caderak. I hope you forgive me.
I said once before, whatever you need.
Good. And I think that she kind of grazes your shoulder and kind of then pats it almost. And the expression on your face, if you were to see some sort of reflective surface, you would see that it is very sincere worry. And I think both Adira and Shahan pick up on this. And Adira looks and says, why not one of us? Why can't we assist Everett in some regard? And she says, your talents as Pathwalkers are invaluable. Everett has a different set of skills. Where you can open a door, Everett can secret his way into other places. Places that are inaccessible to us, even. It is not my desire to put you in any more harm's way, Everett, but you're simply the most well-suited.
So, you think that I could find a way to get some of these Vizsla into the grey?
I think that will remain my purview. But I think that there are things moving against us. I have heard rumors throughout the actuality of something coming. Some forces at work.
What kind of forces?
It's hard to
General,
say.
I can't do my job unless you tell me exactly what you know. You're not normally this secretive.
Things out of the night side. And as she says that, there is a look of shame on her face.
Where? What part of the night side?
Past the silver sun, the night side of silver. Past the end. Into the dark.
Are you asking me to go back there?
No. I just need you to fight it. When it seeks to harm these people, we need to find out more. We need to know our enemy.
Is that where you think these things are from?
No. And she says it very quickly. No, not at all.
So we have two wars now. One from the night side and one from wherever.
I know as little as you do.
Tell me what you want to do and I'll do it.
We are going to make available some of our Pathwalkers to Neheron. They will be under your command. They will not only be Pathwalkers, they will also be Goetics. People able to traffic with some measure of power from the silver, or the red sun, or the pale. So long as we are careful. Use them as a resource for your larger mission, but do not forget these are people as well that mean so much to all of us, that can do so much and hope to turn this tide.
I can't guarantee everyone's safety.
And,
I'm not a leader.
And Shahan looks to you and says, we all understood what we stood to sacrifice the moment we began this crusade, as it were. We will save as many as we can, but we are willing to lay down our lives.
I don't pretend to understand why you are so hell-bent on this sacrifice, but... And he's looking, the empty eye sockets are just staring directly at Shia this entire time. If this is what you want, then so be it.
Absolutely. And excellent. And she nods and says, yes. This is the best we can hope for.
And I think if they end up getting like dismissed or moving, I feel like at some point Mott shoots a hand out and grabs Shia and just staring at her, whatever the expression is on her face mirrored into the mask, and is just, I know we're at war and there's only a few things that you can tell me since I'm not one of the generals, but I know when you're lying. And I know when there are things you aren't telling me. No matter what else is happening in this war, I fight for you, not the Indigo, not this city. And if you are in trouble, or if you are in danger, and I can't protect you, and you send me out there, I need to know what's going on. And you don't have to tell me now, but this is not finished.
I'm going to turn a card. Fleeting moment. Strengthens Indigo, it weakens Gray. Lost time, elusiveness, agility, and reaction. Time moves inexorably forward. Sometimes it moves so quickly that we lose track of it. We try to watch, we try to pay attention, and yet it's gone. Mercurially, it slips through our fingers. Time can move so rapidly, in fact, that we can lose time. Look at the clock. It's 6:22. Look again. Seemingly a moment later, and it's 8:05. They say that there was once an hour that came after midnight, but eventually it moved so quickly that it disappeared altogether. If that's true, perhaps it's the fate of all time, and the midnight hour will flit away next. Time is elusive and impossible to hold, no matter how you try. It's a force even the gods fear. Quick and decisive reaction is the advice suggested by this card. The implication is that something is going to happen. It's going to happen soon, and it's going to happen fast. One must be ready. This could be a threat, or it could be a valuable opportunity. Either way, one has to react to it with agility. Physical, mental, or both. Or this elusive event will flitter away, leaving only its results behind to show that it ever even happened. Perception of time. An NPC escapes from... Makes a brief appearance. Okay. Um. Well,
These cards continue to haunt my existence.
no, this is a good one. Shia looks at Adira and Shahan and says to them, "Leave us. I would speak alone." And both of them kind of give a flicker of kind of their eyes flicking to one another, and they begrudgingly acquiesce. And she undoes the tie of the crescent moon, opens it. They leave. She ties it back, the air once again growing heavy. She looks to you and she says, "This doesn't leave this tent." And she takes the piece of chalk out of her pocket and she draws in the earth a rectangle and a circle. And she draws a symbol on it. And she knocks on the earth 3 times. And as she does, she lifts the handle. And the path opens. And out of reflex, your hands instinctually go up into a fighting position as one of the enemies begins to climb up out of the floor. It is not wearing a helmet. Its eyes are completely golden, but perceiving. They have a pupil and an iris not unlike a bird's. A long beak. And she looks to you. And she says, "This is Majuin. And he's here to help us." And that is where we're going to end the episode tonight.
Oh my god!
How dare.
Zach, this episode fucking ruled, man.
So, guys, thanks so much for staying on this wild ride. I'm hoping to give you guys as many answers as possible, but this has been a lot of fun. This has been a long time coming.
I've got like 80 questions and like 2 answers, so
and
you
that's
bitch better have my
invisible
answers.
guys, I think we're about to hit 7:30 tonight. So I also think that because we're in the middle of an operation, or kind of like we've already kind of gotten our experience totals from last time, we're going to forego that. The only question I'm going to say to my players is go ahead and let me know if you have character arcs that are moved along by this information. Hopper, you were about to ask something.
Yeah, are we doing Joy and Despair?
Yeah, I can totally do.
Because I've got like a very my character arc doesn't. It's nebulous. It's nebulous.
All right.
But I feel like that one card. I feel like I should get a Joy for that.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, are we talking character arcs of our normal PCs?
Let's say we'll handle that off stream. But
My adrenaline is so high right now. I'm literally like involuntarily trembling in my seat. I just need you all to know this. I cannot stop shaking.
I love it. Excellent. This is what I live for. So guys, we're gonna do all of the character stuff off stream. I'm gonna be shouted at for 10 minutes after we do our outros and
15.
our shout outs.
15.
Huh?
15 minutes of
15
shouting.
minutes,
Don't
okay.
shortchange us.
Okay, so guys, let's start back in our same order. Marcy, do you have any shout outs or plugs that you want to do this week?
I have a lot of shouting, but I also do have some legitimate shout outs. Well, first of all, Man, this is great. After our long break, to be back, what an episode to come back on. Just in case you're not entirely sick of some of us, every Saturday, sometimes Tuesdays, we have another stream right here on this channel called Flights of Fandom. I'm very excited to be saying that next Saturday, Zach will be DMing for us over there, running us through a 4-week Dishonored campaign. So if you are a fan of the video game series, please, please, please tune in and watch all of our crazy characters. We're going to be setting it in the middle of the first game as we try to survive the Great Rat Plague. It's going to be a good time, a whale of a time. That I wrote that down earlier, and I almost forgot to say my stupid joke, but I got it.
It's gonna be great. Can't wait. I was gonna say, Bill, do you have any shout outs or plugs this week?
Sure. I think this week I'd like to shout out Some More News by Cody Johnston. If you're not watching that on YouTube, shows every week. He'll tell you what's what. And I'd also like to say that Hearthward Bound, which immediately preceded this as another kind of break, where I DM'd my fellow castmates playing animal companions, trying to get back to their druids. That's going up on YouTube very soon as I get my shit together and get all the details ready. So looking forward to putting that on YouTube to share with you all.
Excellent. Can't wait. Hopper, you got any plugs or shout outs this week?
I do. I mean, first off, go watch that whale of a tale over on Flights of Fandom. That physically hurt me. I hope you're proud of yourself. And secondly, there's a bunch of amazing shows here on Manapod Studios. You should check them all out. But also, I'd like to throw a shout out to Jeff Stormer recently released a really awesome system called Anyone Can Wear the Mask, which is Jeff Stormer, friend of many shows because he's awesome. And you should also listen to his 2 podcasts, but I'm going to shout out the one I listen to more consistently because I have limited free time. And that's All My Fantasy Children, which is a super awesome podcast, and you should go check that out.
Awesome. Marissa, do you have any shout outs or plugs this week?
Yeah, so as many of you know, longtime viewers, I am also the kind of Good Society runner here on Manapod Studios. And Good Society is currently having its second Kickstarter, so they are looking to fund a reprint of the core book. And as part of this Kickstarter, they are also creating a completely new deck, which is the Love and Longing deck, which will come with lots of different new desires, new character roles, and different playsets, actually. So if you've ever wanted to see what role-playing in Jane Austenian England would be like, please check out Good Society and consider throwing them a couple of bucks here and there so that they can fund their reprint and expand their reach. It's a fantastic game. And if I can get my act together, as Bill says, we will soon have the Good Society that I've run here up on the channel, up on YouTube as well. So that's the goal, and I'm going to stick to it.
Excellent. So for my part, I'm just going to throw a shout out to the Cypher Unlimited crew, who are super awesome. To Dean and Albatross or Al and Anthony, all great folks. I had the pleasure of hanging out with Anthony recently. And I also wanted to go and throw a shout out to The Darkest House. It's I've been there. It's really fun. It's mine now. It'll be mine forever. And you should go check that out at thedarkesthouse.com. No reason. We're always looking for more tenants. And in addition, I'd also, as usual, like to throw a shout out to Encounter Party. So I believe they just had their finale for Ravnica, didn't they, guys?
Yeah, the end of the 3-season arc, just two weeks ago.
Yeah, hashtag goals. But yeah, what was that? They did a great job, so can't wait to see what's next. And they're big friends of the show, so we always love to have them, whether they are streaming Rime of what was it? I'm trying to remember.
Frost Maiden.
Rime of the Frost Maiden. That's right. Rime of the Frost Maiden, or they are actually doing Encounter Party, whether it's in Ravnica or wherever they want to set their show. I absolutely love everything they do.
They're doing so much cool stuff with world building on Twitch, and like I'm so excited for this crazy bullshit. Oh.
And on that note, guys, we're gonna go ahead and say goodnight. And but in the meantime, as always, we want you guys to take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and may the invisible sun shine on you all. Good night. Stick it out for the raid. Talk soon.